Welcome, everyone, to our 9th episode of our Firefighters podcast. So thanks, everybody, for being here, especially Chief Fulmer. You know how busy of a guy you were before retirement. It seems like your busyness has tripled since retirement.
It's all good.
But appreciate taking time to be with us today. Let's just start for those that may be tuning in on this, that aren't as familiar with the legend status that you have. Give us a little bit of background on you, a little intro to your fire career, kind of brief resume, and tell us about you.
Okay. Doug Fulmer. I am married, have 4 children that are all married, and we've raised all of our children here in Cache Valley. I was fortunate enough to get married in 91 and then went to school at Utah State for quite a while, 5 years. Couldn't really figure out what I wanted to be and just ended up taking an EMT class, which started me down the road of getting some exposure with Logan Fire Department. And even then I didn't have any desire to do the job, but I started with Logan Fire in 95, worked there for 26 years, and it was a good ride.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And especially, it seems like in today's world, guys are switching agencies every so many years, but to stay with one agency for your whole career. What kept you at Logan? Because I'm sure there was a lot of changes during your 26-year career.
Well, I think there's probably a lot of stuff there that probably was part of the equation, but I grew up here. I've lived in Providence and Nibley and North Logan, and so I just have known a lot of people. It means a lot to be able to serve your own community. For me to stay at Logan Fire was super rewarding just to be able to build relationships with so many people in the community and network. Yeah, I don't think you would have ever saw me leave.
Yeah, well, that's pretty awesome. Tell me a little bit about where Logan Fire was when you started. And we were talking about it a little bit before we started here, but the starting pay was $21,000 when you started. And just give us an idea of just how much things have changed over that course of your career.
I'll butcher this, but John Fulmer tells a really funny story about a fire that happened at McDonald's right on 700 North Main. Have you guys ever heard him tell that story?
I don't think so.
Okay, look, before you leave Logan Fire, before he leaves, you have to grab John Fulmer and have him tell you this story, because it really tells you the total contrast between where you guys are today and what we were then. But, it comes down to education and experience. And those people that ran Logan Fire were exceptional at the time. I believe that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And so we are the beneficiaries of everything that they put into the organization back then. However, when they had this fire, it was a car fire at McDonald's. This car pulled up underneath the carport, and, Chief Deaver jumped in his vehicle and he went there and he pushed this vehicle out from underneath the carport with just his civilian clothes on. And the engine pulled up, and of course it was a fuel line that had broke, so you've got fuel that's spilling onto the ground and it's going downhill because it's kind of got a grade to the parking lot. And now you got water, and so the fuel is moving faster across the parking lot. Now it's going towards the fire engine, and they're trying to move the hose line to get it there, and it knocks one of our firefighters on his butt, breaks the regulator. So now you got a regulator that's spraying everywhere. You've got a firefighter that's down, fuel moving towards the fire engine. It's going underneath the fire engine, and the engineer on the other side can't see it. I mean, it was bad news bears, right? And now you just look at the ODP and the things that Chief Hannig has done and many other people along the way, right? It's not just one person. It's a combination of everybody putting an effort into making such an exceptional organization. Logan Fire is like the bomb. Yeah.
That could go off at any second. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I think that is cool. And I think that's one of the things over a course of a career that can be hard for people, is to see all that change, right? But it just seems like you're always at the forefront of embracing it and pushing it forward, and a huge part of our organization and getting us to that next level as well. And so I think that's pretty awesome. Andy, let's get a little intro on you real quick, and then just tell us a little bit about you, how your career started, and a little bit of your resume and career history.
Well, I mean, I went through UVU, through the fire academy there. I'd been married. We had my first boy, Logan. He was like 6 months old when I think Logan Fire just ran out of candidates, so they accepted my resume. And that was 19 years ago, and we had 3 other children while we were here. in the valley, and so I've just been trying to keep up with guys like Doug, really, and,
Save the watch. It's getting deep.
and younger guys like Gibbons and like you, Brent. I mean, you just bring so much. It's hard to keep up with it all. But yeah.
Yeah, no, we could go on for hours on stories, but I got so many on both of you guys that throughout my career, both mostly as a volunteer up to this point, but then the last couple of years with Logan. But Andy, tell us a little bit about, because same thing with Chief Fulmer's, one agency for you as well. I think is kind of a cool thing. Is there, something that played a role in that for you?
Well, I'll be honest, it's pretty tough to see friends. Your brothers go to other departments, and I think each department has its pros and also the cons. Like it depends on what is going to be the best for you and for your family. So some departments offer quite a bit more than Logan has that Logan just isn't going to be able to provide, right? But also Logan provides things that other departments just wouldn't be able to. And so for my family and the things that Jesse, my wife, and I thought were the most important, then we made it work here, and it's been really good. So yeah.
You also had kind of a unique experience, like your house caught on fire.
Mm-hmm.
That you responded to it from the fire station, right? You were on duty.
Yeah.
And that didn't scare you away from Logan Fire?
Well, I was really grateful for Logan, and I was really grateful for Chief Peterson at the time and Chief Meeker, because Chief Peterson gave me a ride out there. We live out west of Cache Valley and not in our area. It's not in Logan City Fire Department zone. And so Chief Peterson gave me a ride out, and then while we were going out, Chief Meeker got on the radio and asked Chief Olson in Mendon if Logan could send some more resources to help. And I was really grateful, for that support. And really that helped a lot with putting out the fire and that. And then after, just a lot of help from everybody here. And I talk about that conservatively because everybody has challenges, and that one was a big one. And I think it was awesome, like, that people came and helped. But I feel like other people have challenges that don't maybe get that same result, and they feel a little left out, But that one was just a really big one. It was easy to see, and there was lots of ways to help. And like we had a ton of help from the fire department and from others, but it wasn't because of me or anything like that. It was just of the circumstance. A lot of people might feel like, hey, they're having challenges and aren't getting the help, but maybe it's just not as easy to see, or it's a little harder to help,
Well, I think that's a perfect segue into what we're talking about today, because I think as firefighters, we are helpers. And so when you see that need, and it's a very visual, clear thing that needs to be done, you're going to get 20, 30, 40 plus guys that are just anxious to help, right? But in those moments where you aren't seen, like after you retire, right? Like when you're not at the station anymore, I think, and the fire service, I think that's where sometimes we seem to fall a little bit short. The guys we aren't seeing every day, just like you said, it's not seen. Not that no one's unwilling to help, right? It's just not the big house on fire. That's the obvious. Let's go do this.
They may not know, right? They may not know. Like, honestly, for myself, that's been one of the reasons over the course of time. Like everybody thinks about other departments or what things might be one way or the other. But for me, that was one example, right? So, and that was quite a while ago. It was a long time ago, right? And I've always thought back and it's like, well, I do remember when Andy's house caught on fire. It was always something that stuck out. And it wasn't just that, we've had like a natural gas explosion in another one of our members' families' houses. That was a propane explosion. But there's been multiple things over the course of time when somebody's needed help that people have always kind of stepped up, or heaven forbid, if I had that emergency in my house or something similar, I was going to be able to get there.
Yeah. A couple of things that jumped out to me about that was, none of us want to go to work and just really sit there all day, right? We want to go to work, but typically the things that we go and respond on are somebody else's worst day, right? And if I remember the story right, Andy, Brian Holbrook said something beginning of the shift. He said, man, we need a good working fire today.
Mm-hmm.
Bless your
I can't
heart,
remember what it
Brian.
was, yeah.
But Holbrook said, we need a good worker today. And then he ended up responding on his own house. Weren't you the first nozzle in the door?
It was a good worker too. It was a good fire, right? Like it had vented through the roof, and I was about to kick the door in, and Chief Peterson was like, "Don't you have a key to your house?" I'm like, "I don't. I don't." So we busted the side window, which was a good idea, but yeah.
I'm really glad that it wasn't the plumber, though, that caught it on fire. That would have been a bad day.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing too, because a lot of people from the department helped work on it, and so all of them called and was like, "So what was it? Was it my fault?" But it was my fault, yeah.
You know what, though, Andy? I'll never forget how you were able to smile through that all. And it wasn't a fake smile, right? Andy was just laughing and just saying, it's just a house. All my family's here. My belongings are not that important. It's my family that's the most important. And I think sometimes we do get a little calloused, right? We're there. We become very robotic. We pull up, we do our job, and we kick crap out of it, and then sometimes forget that that's somebody else's worst day. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think both of you have been, shining examples of that positivity, and maintaining that throughout the workplace. And sometimes it seems like those are the people that probably need the extra support the most, but they're always giving it out and being the most positive. And I know that goes a long way for guys. Doug, tell us a couple of things about your career that helped you have we called it yesterday with Chief Hansen, just kind of an on-top retirement. Retire while you're on top, things are good, not a boot out the door kind of scenario, but just, to get to that point where you can retire at the top of your game.
I don't know that I would say I was on top of my game. I think, you get out of paramedic school and you definitely feel like you're on top of your game, and you lose those skills if you're not using them. And so as far as being a paramedic, I felt like I was a bucket of rust by the time I left. But I wanted to leave Logan while I still loved it. I wanted to leave when people still had some shadow of respect for you and that you were of value, right? And so that's a tough spot to try and figure out where that is, because we know that there have been people who have left, and understandably so. They left on a really sour note, and we haven't seen them for a long time. Haven't seen them at a Christmas party. Haven't seen them come to any of our get-togethers, and that's sad. That's not what we want to have. We want to have them leave on a good note. And for me, I think it was about just trying to find balance. Find the balance of how much time and energy do I put into work, how much time do I have for me, and how much time do I have for my family, and then any other things that come along with it. Because you all know that you can put 110 hours easily into that place a week, and to what benefit, right? There's plenty of people that are there to work, but it's just about trying to find the balance, and I felt like I had a good balance.
Yeah. Did you kind of have a plan leading up to it, or was it kind of week by week?
No, I think anybody who's looking to retire, you should really be spending some time with a URS. Have that advisor call you up, spend some time. I've had them come to my home. I've gone to, they've had meetings where you've had school teachers and judges and everybody come together. They used to anyways, they've had quarterly meetings. It was just wise, right? You just forecasting. It's the same thing we do every day. We come to work, we prepare for the unknown. And that's what it is. You're preparing for the unknown. And it would be sad for you to just quit one day and you hadn't prepared and know, how does the URS work? How do they pay you? And what will be your benefits? What will be your benefits if you die to your wife? And so I did that. I just did my homework and try to make that work. I was fortunate enough, though, to be able to go to work the very next week and do something that I've had a lot of passion doing, and it wasn't as hard on my body as being a firefighter. And so that's a tough segue to leave to go to do something else that's going to keep your attention.
Yeah. Yeah, and tell us a little more about that, because I think, at least from some of the things we've studied out, is that one important part of retirement is finding something to keep your, not just to keep you busy, but to, something that gives you purpose, something that you can kind of give your heart to again. That, like, I think you said it well, that isn't maybe as hard on you as shift work with firefighting, but to go to retirement and have something else that gives you purpose and something to look forward to. How much, has that played a role in your retirement so far?
We could call it filling the gap or the hole left behind.
And it's a very real, it's a huge hole, Brent. I've been kind of taken back by it. So, this week I wondered if people were worried about me because I've had this opportunity to meet with the four of you and Paul downstairs, and I've had Haas and I've had Neil come to my house this week, and it's been super, but it's a really big void. It's almost like moving to another country sometimes because you just don't connect, and then you hear sirens and you just want to jump, right? You want to go and do. I don't know. I've felt fortunate in the things that I've been able to do since my retirement. I tease and say it's not really been a retirement because I'm still putting in 40 hours a week doing something different. But I heard a statistic, and I should really check this out and vet it out to see if it's accurate, but I can believe it, and that is that they say that firefighter paramedic retires and they change job 5 times within 5 years after that because they're always looking for that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that you just can't replicate.
Did that surprise you more than you thought it would? Because we talk about it a lot, but then when the moment it actually hits, just...
Yep, it's very real, right? I try to reach out to people that have retired, but somebody that has been so good has been Jason Gibbons. He'll call randomly. How you doing today? With no agenda, right? Just to talk and just checking on me. And that's huge. That just means a lot. It means, I had laughed. I took all of my business cards, right? I had tons of business cards, and when I left, I was hiding them everywhere because I was just teasing. I don't want anybody to forget me, right? But there's a disconnect there that you just can't explain, but it's very palpable.
My agenda was always to find out what the fish were biting every single time.
I wish I could fish as much as you do.
Yeah, it was always to find out what the fish were biting.
And one thing, I think different ways to cope with that disconnect or that hole, that void. There's better ways than others, and I think there's certainly some negative paths guys can take to try to deal with that. What are some positive things that you've done to deal with that? And if you're okay talking about it, I know you mentioned earlier you've been meeting with Jody.
Yeah.
Maybe talk about that experience and what it's like meeting with a clinician as a retiree and just why that's been important to you.
So it's always good to have something that someone else needs. And being a plumber, it seems like everybody needs something. So they still just give me a call and ask for some input. And I've been fortunate enough to spend the last 5 months at Chief Hanig's house and just doing his remodel and always playing catch up, which means I'll stop into the station to talk to him about stuff and get to rub shoulders with everybody. But it's a two-way street, right? You want everybody from the department to reach out to you, but you got to reach back to them as well. And sometimes we kind of feel like, we've just been turned out to pasture and we're of no value. But I always loved it when guys would come into this station. Lynn Naylor was so good about that. He would just come in regularly just to come and say hi. And those are times you just want to drop what you're doing. Troy Parker said one time, I'd love to come back to Logan Fire. I feel like I could just jump right back into the seat and do the exact same thing. I just feel like I could just do it right now. But just staying connected with everybody, just a simple text, that's super. As far as meeting with a clinician, I probably needed to meet with a clinician even during my career, right? There was some tough stuff that we've all had to see, and you just can't wring that. I just don't know how that we could do it on our own. We want to be that guy that just says I can chuck this, and it just doesn't work. That's a profession that they're skilled in, and Jody is exceptional. I didn't think she was going to be a good fit for me at first, right? When I walked into the room and met with her, she was just loud and obnoxious. I'm like, oh my gosh, we are not going to be a good match. She tells a story, and I won't divulge who it was, but if anybody's watching this, they'll know who I'm talking about if they watch it. But she said one of our guys showed up there, and everybody had been teasing him, telling him that if you go and meet with her, you have to lay down, just like you're meeting with Sigmund Freud. And so he walked into the room, and she said he stood there for like 5 minutes trying to decide how to lay down on the couch so he could start talking about his childhood. But she's been really good. And, I even met with her just this last week. I probably go there about once every 6 weeks, every 2 months. And sometimes it's just to help relief stress or anxiety. She said she has a good take on firemen and military and policemen and medics, that we're dopamine addicts, whether we know it or not, and we need that dopamine fix. And then all of a sudden when you retire, you don't get that anymore. It causes a vacuum. Trying to figure out how to fill it is a challenge.
Yeah, I think that's so great for you to be able to talk about that and share that, because I'm sure there's guys that maybe have thought about it, but it's so much easier if you know other people are doing it too, you know. And I think even now with guys in their career, I feel like when we initially started bringing clinicians in, there was a little bit of uneasiness maybe, but now we're, I think, a couple of years into it, and it just seems like it's more of the norm. It's every day it's becoming more and more the norm that it's to check in with a clinician is not probably what people think it is. It's just a good way to check in. Andy, I'm interested in your thoughts here, because, you know, as you claim, which we know isn't true, but you claim your crew's kicking you out the door here. You're coming up close to your 20. What are some of the thoughts you've had as you're approaching at least that stage? You know, I know a lot of guys stay longer, but when that starts becoming a reality, what are some of the thoughts and feelings that are coming through?
Well, just to be clear, I got 1 to 10 more years. I'm not doing a day over 10. You know, I'm really curious to see what, because I have an idea, an expectation of what it'll be like, but like Doug, working, you know, I'll be doing something, another career, not likely to fill the void or be similar to this job. But yeah, I'm interested to see how it is for me, you know, because in my mind I say, yeah, I'm gonna be just fine, right? No big deal. But then the reality of it is it may not be, you know, what I'm thinking. But I've got some what I consider good friends that have retired, like Doug and Scott and Troy, and of those 3, all of them have dealt with it a little bit different. So I think it's a little bit different for everybody, and sometimes it's kind of what you make of it, like a lot of life. I think, you know, some guys that have stayed at Logan Fire instead of going to other places were maybe not as happy and left a little grumpy or whatever, but I'm not sure that they would have left any other department any different, right? Just because of what we tell ourselves, the storylines that we give ourselves, and kind of the attitudes that we choose to have. But so I hope that it'll be awesome, you know, and I can be a fun grandpa, and I mean, those are the things that I look forward to. But I don't know, I might just like be in Jody's office every day trying to make it through life. But I am very grateful that we have the resources to be able to go and see clinicians, or you know, to get that added just help or boost or whatever. So
yeah, I kind of want to, because, and we talked again when we were speaking with Brady too, just how much attitude plays a role in not just your career, but how much that bleeds over into retirement too. You know, when you develop a pattern and a habit of a positive attitude, it just seems like, you know, it's much easier for that to carry over in retirement than to maybe be a little bit more grumpy throughout your career, and then to think something's magically going to change when you retire, you know. And so, Captain Shock, tell us a little, how do you maintain that? You know, because
smiling,
I think
smiling all the time,
just smiling all the time. And I don't think anybody in the history of Logan Fire would ever peg you as a grumpy person. Not even like, I can't even have one memory of ever seeing you a little bit grumpy.
Oh, that's just people that don't know me that good. You know, I was very blessed with awesome parents and family, and you know, they're like, my mom and dad are pretty great examples to me, because life wasn't super easy for them. They went through some huge challenges that I didn't really realize at the time, and they just always tried to make the best of the situation that they had. And I guess that might have just rolled over a little bit. I mean, my dad, yeah, he had a lot of opportunities to complain about life or the way things were or the way things he wanted them, and he just made them the best that he could. And so that was a pretty good example to me. And then I just haven't been happy with myself when I have gotten angry or upset, you know, and it's definitely happened. lost my temper or something, and then I just realized that didn't help the situation, and it didn't help my life, and I just haven't seen a lot of opportunity or experiences where it has, and so I just choose to trying to make the best of it. And I tell at least the crew and my kids that sometimes you just got to make a decision, right or wrong, and make the best of it with whatever the decision was. But
yeah, no, I think that's great. I think sometimes we probably overthink it. Like there's got to be some complicated formula to being happy all the time. But I think you said it well. It's a simple decision. You choose to make the best of it and carry on. And sometimes don't overthink it. Chief, you're kind of the same way. It's just like always. Tons of energy. And how did you kind of maintain that throughout your career, and how has that bled over into your retirement?
I don't think I was happy unless I was around Andy.
Listen to this guy.
Smiling all the time.
I think it's generational too, right? If you go to Andy's house, one of his kids has a great big smiley face painted on one of the walls. It's like 6 feet in diameter. And Andy was always, I called him EB, the Energizer Bunny, because he just was one of those people you just wanted to be around. Chief Humphreys had a quote that I've remembered, and he said, you choose to be happy. Every morning I get up in the morning, I choose to be happy or I choose not to be happy, and it's work. I think it's a challenge for all of us, and those people that are good at it doesn't just come naturally. I think that they have to work at it too. Everybody's in a storm, coming out of a storm, or going into a storm, and it's how you choose to deal with those storms really is, whether or not people want to spend time around with you. But who doesn't want to work on a shift or work on a crew with Andy Schock, right? It's exceptional.
The waiting list is long.
Yeah,
I can vouch for that.
It is. It is very, very true, and his kids are very much like that too. But I look at the fire department today, and it starts at the bottom and moves up, and it starts at the top and it moves down. And there are plenty of reasons for us to be ornery and to be mad. There's things that will be demoralizing to us, and we can all sit around and we can just be pissed off about it and yell, or we can choose to try and make a change and be the difference, right? I guess I feel fortunate that I got to work at Logan Fire Department. So for me, it was a choice. I was going to be a contributor no matter where I was. I swore long ago that I was not going to be the lazy firefighter and retire from there fat, lazy, and just old and ornery. I just didn't want to be that person. And so every day you just put on your game face and say, I'm going to come to work and I'm going to earn every penny that I get paid. And yeah, maybe there's other departments that get paid more, but there's some serious benefit about working at Logan Fire Department. And so for me, I wanted to be a contributor.
I'll never forget what you told me when I first started, and you said it repeatedly in trainings and stuff, but that there's no growth in the comfort zone, no comfort in the growth zone. Tell us a little bit about retirement. Does that still apply to retirement? Is there still growth in retirement, or is it finally time to just accept the comfort zone?
No, there is no comfort in retiring, and you'll continue to just find yourself in uncomfortable positions. And I think we're just being stretched, right? We all have something that you can offer, whether it's at home, whether it's in another job, whether it's another profession. I think that all of us walk away from there with having some experience that the rest of the world can't appreciate, right? And I do say that it's like the taste of salt. You can try and explain it to someone else, but unless they've actually experienced it, they can't understand what it's like to work there. But you have things that you can do in your community. You have plenty of things that you can contribute. Even today, I had a guy come to my house who's been a previous city councilman, and I know it sounds stupid, but I'm like, maybe that's something I should pursue, is maybe looking to being a city councilman, because I have some understanding about the needs of a community now, having worked at Logan Fire Department. So I don't know if that answered your question, but it's very uncomfortable retiring. Just keep stretching yourself and try and find some place where you can give back.
Yeah, and there's probably plenty of growth in retirement. You don't stagnate. There's plenty of opportunities for growth, which is why it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
There's plenty of opportunities to try things and continue. just as we kind of wrap up here, I'd be interested to hear kind of everybody's take, for those that are retired, that are tuning in on this podcast series, kind of what's one thing you wish every Logan retiree knew, whether, coming from the three of you that have been with Logan for a long time, but if you could send one message to every Logan retiree, kind of what would that message be?
Well, I think maybe they forgot, because Doug mentioned that passing out those business cards, you kind of don't want to be forgotten. You still want to be part of the team, even though it's definitely a different situation. But most of the guys that have left still get talked about quite a bit. Usually it's when they've done something really dumb. So you're still remembered, maybe not in the capacity that you hope for or you desire for, and Logan Fire, those that retired out of Logan Fire made a huge difference in the department and the way that it's ran, and the good and the bad, but mostly way for the good, and paved the way to make it way easier and better for us that are still here. And so we appreciate it. We appreciate it, all the things that you taught and the things that you stood for and the examples that you were. I mean, just today we were talking about Bob Goodwin. Paul Olson brought him up, said, when we're driving in the engine, we need to drive down Main Street, be proud and be on parade, and let the little kids know that we're out here and that we care about them. And so, how long's Bob been gone?
It's got to be 6 years.
6-7 years now.
Yeah. You laid some really strong foundations that all of us still use a lot. I mean, examples for me were like Bob Van Slyke, rolling up hose as a captain. I'll always remember that. He was always cleaning the station, cleaning the bay. He was always busy doing stuff, and gave me some great teaching lessons. I don't know, the guys that when you leave, you may think that you've totally separated, but you're still very much a part of what we do, our everyday life, and will be likely for a long time. So
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you said that great, Andy. They're missed, right? For me, watching my friends retire, the guys that I've worked with, everything else, it's rough. Like those retirement parties, everything, even the weeks leading up to it. My wife, she asked me, she's like, "So are you going into mourning again? Is this going to be like you're going through the different stages of grief time?" Because it's so hard to spend that much time with somebody and then know that at least the work portion of that's coming to an end, right? Those guys, they're your family. You guys are missed pretty much every day at the station, right? You taught so many people so many things over the course of time that it can't be replaced. It's invaluable, right? I guess the thing I think about is, am I meeting the expectation as one of the senior guys now? Am I passing those things along the way that they were passed on to me? So thank you for the example.
Well, first, the guys, girls still on duty, still doing the gig. Keep your head on a swivel. The last thing I ever want to hear is that one of our people have a career-ending injury, something that was preventable. If it's predictable, it's preventable. And I think sometimes we do have that persona that we are invincible, and so I just hope that nothing ever happens there. For the person that's retired, man, even like this next Monday, I'm going to go to lunch with John Cox. So I love being connected. And if you're out there and you're kind of wondering, how can I get connected, man, start with me. Give me a call. I would love to do something like that. But you're missed. You're loved. We appreciate everything that you did to build Logan Fire and as a contributor, and you're still part of the family. I still feel connected. I do. Even though, my skill set isn't what it was, I'm still family, and I'll always treasure my time at Logan Fire for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think that was all very well said, and I have nothing to speak to that other than I'm on the other end of the kitchen table just hearing all the stories. And, I think as the new guys listen to those stories, you can't help but think, man, I hope one day I'm being talked about like that around the kitchen table. Just what a cool thing, and so what, like you said, what great examples have led the way before us, and what mantle you're creating for the new guys to have to carry on one day. But I think just as kind of our final shout out, I just want to remind everybody that the peer support team with Logan Fire is not just for the current members, that there's lots in the works and currently happening for retirees, including the clinicians. The clinicians, I think that's one of the biggest steps we've had in able to get those clinicians for retirees and their family members at no cost. Any clinician you want, we have a bunch on the website that are vetted and have done ride-alongs, and so are a little familiar with the culture at Logan Fire. But if you have somebody else that you want to go see, then there's a way for you to do that, and it's 100% private. So if there's any questions about any of that, I hope anybody would reach out, and any member of the peer support team is ready to help you make that appointment, or I hope the website's good enough that you can, if you want to make that appointment on your own without letting anybody know, that you can do that too. But lots of great resources here to connect to and reach out at any time. So thank you everyone for being here today. Thank you for your words. This is going to go a long way, so I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brent.